Hello. Oh my gosh. Welcome to the 2023 Annual Conference and Book Fair in Seattle, Washington. I am Michelle Aielli, a member of the AWP Board of Directors. Here is a visual description of me. I am a white female with dark hair that is pulled back in a low bun. I am wearing the traditional outfit of New Yorkers: black pants, black shirt, and black jacket. The Association of Writers and Writing Programs is a small but mighty nonprofit organization that amplifies the voices of writers and the academic programs and organizations that serve them, all while championing diversity and excellence in creative writing. I am a member of AWP's board of directors, but first and foremost, I am a member of AWP. Membership with AWP provides me with writing resources year-round, but just as importantly, it allows me to support other writers, especially those who are just starting out. My membership dues help writers find meaningful careers and publication opportunities and make services like the Writer-to-Writer Mentorship Program possible. If you aren't already, I invite you to become a member now. We are delighted to bring you this event today. I'd like to acknowledge and thank all of our conference sponsors and the literary partner hosting this event, Kundiman. Our literary partners and sponsors allow AWP to present these extraordinary literary events and help us keep our conference affordable and accessible. Please join me in thanking all of our conference sponsors and partners for their support and participation. Now, before we start, some brief housekeeping. Please silence your cell phones. Remember, there is no flash photography allowed during the presentation. Respect seats marked as reserved for attendees with accessibility needs. Please give the authors about 10 minutes after the presentation to get to the book signing table before approaching them to have your book signed. Lastly, we ask that you please be aware of your fellow attendees who may have disabilities and help AWP be more accessible. Specifically, if you see a barrier to accessibility, let us know by calling or texting our accessibility hotline at 240-269-6635. Please also be aware of those with invisible disabilities and do not question someone's use of an accommodation. Thank you. And now it's my great pleasure and honor to welcome Kyle Lucia Wu from Kundiman, who will introduce this fantastic event.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kundiman's featured reading, celebrating Pacific Islander literature, featuring Craig Santos Perez, Christiana Kahakawila, and William New Utubu Giles. My name is Kyle Lucia Wu. I am Kundiman's interim executive director. Here's a visual description of me. I'm an Asian American woman with brown hair and bangs, wearing a brown suit. Kundiman is a national nonprofit dedicated to nurturing Asian American literature. We believe that sharing our stories leads to personal healing and collective empowerment. Over the past 18 years, we have worked to create a space where writers can explore through art the unique challenges facing our ever-changing diaspora. Since Kundiman was founded in 2004, more than 270 fellows have attended our annual retreat, and those fellows have published over 330 books and chapbooks, a radical transformation in the literary landscape. We have 10 regional groups stationed both across the country and internationally that host their own reading, salons, and workshops, and any Asian American writer is invited to join these groups. We also offer online classes in fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, and many of these classes are open to all writers of color. If you'd like to learn more about us, you can find us online at kundiman.org and on social media at Kundiman Forever. And throughout the conference, we will be at booth number 728, so please feel free to stop by. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce today's reading. Pacific Islander literature has a rich history abundant with poetic styles and oral storytelling traditions, exploring sustainability, imperialism, climate change, decolonization, and more. It is vital to discussions of American literature to read and honor the work of Pacific Islanders. Today, we are thrilled to present this panel with three writers very dear to Kundiman. And we want to thank everyone at AWP for all of their work organizing and for working with us as literary partners, and thanks to all of you for being here. I have the honor of introducing our moderator, and then we will begin. William Nu Utupu Giles is a Samoan poet and organizer from Honolulu. They are an international poetry slam champ and Kundiman fellow. Will's work explores mental health issues emerging from modern colonization, how we change to chase diaspora, and the waters that connect us. Will's poetry has been featured by HBO, the National Park Service, and NBC News. They are the executive director of Youth Speak Seattle and want to bring poems to you. Welcome, Will.
Whoop. Hello, friends. I'm very excited to be here. I still can't believe I get to share the stage with these two wonderful, wonderful heroes of mine. But I could kind of talk about how I have imposter syndrome for an hour, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to jump into a poem. Like I mentioned, I do work with Youth Speak Seattle, so I work often with youth poets here in Seattle. If you are based in Seattle and you want to learn about what we're doing and how you can plug in, come chat with me. Most days I pull my breath from the sky, borrow the chemical balance from the umbrella atmosphere, this soft clay shell. I pull guilt from my blood, all of the leaving we had to do, the surviving. The canoe can become a confession if you paddle long enough. Let your muscles turn into magma from the burn. Fatigue is a kind of guilt. My body, my very heart betrays me. When I seek forgiveness, you see my blood is so used to anger and doesn't like surprises. I pull my hope from my flock. I look out at this wild aquarium, this misbehaving zoo. I start believing when we break cages, fly above bars, I am an elephant who grew up in captivity. Big body cursed with better memory. I grew up with a ring around my neck. I outgrew it, but never knew this is how I learned even belief can become a prison. I pull next time for my car crashes, bloody, drunken knuckles, and forgiveness they didn't deserve. I pull knowledge from the trees. These eco-poetics, these doctors in my neighborhood who have been studying shelter since before I was born. What is a doctor? Compounded, healing in waves. The way you offer shade to save the small from the sun. The way you hold home for baby birds and nut hoarders who drive dogs wild. The way you pass nutrients through roots. Subtle as sighing, side eye, subtle as passing notes in class I've been studying on the weekend. Homework or land work or less self-work. I am learning how to love without expecting so much in return. I am only learning in degrees, though. I am not yet a green belt in this dojo, in this farm or forest where all I know how to do is breathe or take. Please, I whisper to myself, let it be a trade. Do you understand everything I give you when I exhale? A clean breath, empty of word. What I offer you what my lungs make, with no more than instinct and millions of years of sifting through my blood. But my breaths are often dirtier than that. I offer you substance with breath and style with words. I made my throat into a bell tower, and for you, I ring for days. For you, I make music where there was once only a sufficient marker for the passage of time. I'm so sorry, I got lost in metaphor. I only meant to say your smile could make a school dance or make a wedding party drop acid. I mean, reality simply changes when you walk in the room. You are like a clown in full makeup, or LeBron James, or that ex that hurt me, the one I let hurt me again and again, certain I somehow deserved it. I pull glass from my arm, my cheek, my pocket. There is a difference between souvenirs and scars, I'm sure. I just haven't found it yet. I haven't been writing a whole lot these past few years, but I feel like I've really been trying to create space and get out of my own way in 2023 and writing towards this was also like a reason why I was excited to pick up the pen. I got to study with Craig doing eco-poetics, so again, this is so many dreams coming true, but I'm gonna stop talking and start poeming, because I don't even, talk. Shorter one, actually, let's break it up. I beat, ramble, bubble, spit anywhere I like. This is a persona poem from my heart. In the grass or on the tile, in cousin's car or on that white dress, I'm a bull in the original Ford assembly line. Yes, a wild animal haunting an abandoned factory. I live in a creaky rib cage. Generations after stability can be guaranteed. So just a bumper car through the ruins. Even the most reliable alloy bows and breaks under the kiss of time. So I beat. Breath, bubble, allow everything to escape me. I was born a brick the size of a fist. I had to learn how to open, how to pry my boundaries apart. Strong enough to hold the doors of self-sabotage from slamming on my face. I am not an engine or a muscle or a powerhouse of the cell. I am tender flesh with the responsibility to open. This body entrusted it to me. I am the angel of vulnerability in this cavernous shell. Watch me echo. Watch this skeleton fly. It feels really cool to read like all brand new poems, because I feel like coming up through performance poetry, like I think I've published maybe 1 or 2 poems, and I just never felt worthy in like so many different arenas. And I think, I don't know, the pressure of like the poet you used to be is something I'm always worried about. So coming here and just being like, F it. Like I don't have to rely on 10 years ago Will to be like, I want you to like me. And I know people like that one. Anyway, here's a new poem about revision. It's inspired, for all my Seattle folks in the building, it's inspired by a Blues Scholar song, which my mentor Travis Thompson turned into a writing workshop with You Speaks Hawaii. Under constant revision is the poem that I be. Under constant revision is I be working on myself. Constant revision, my life is a roller coaster I'm on, or a stanza edit sentence I'm running from. I'm constantly fighting with myself. Can't get out of bed some days, or out of my own head some others. Instead of scrolling Instagram, I swipe memories. As fast as they come, embarrassing, swipe, cringe, swipe. Why did you say that? I wished I was silent on so many occasions. A falling star or singing sea witch must have heard my emerald cry. Must have heard my emerald cry, my poor unfortunate soul, my wish to have every word swallowed like spit granted. Under constant revision is a silence I try to see myself out of, edit the snide remarks I try to keep from my mouth, mind mumble, edit macabre wit under constant inspection by my insecurity. Every day I walk through TSA security lines in the bathroom mirror. I empty my water bottle, just ice is okay. I take off my shoes or my excuses. I'm not allowed to wear either of those through here. Through the eye of this needle, through this door we hope is a portal into heaven, or at least a garden it's okay to plant in. One where the deep brown aerated soil sang, or at least confessed as you worked at the wound. Not like a doctor, but like a chorus of muses, or a best friend who calls you on your bullshit like, it still rains sometimes, while we hold this oasis in our minds, this light hail as if the sky watched a falling star and said, doesn't look so hard. I bet I could give it a shot. Underneath this forest, the one your children planted, in my country, edit courage, edit audacity, to say that we will create something stronger than our pride in this grove. I pick the scab of misery off my flesh as easy as peeling a banana. I thought all this bark was armor, but it turned out to be just weight. A kettlebell I didn't even realize I've been carrying with me everywhere I go, like the sink, because I'm still in the bathroom, waiting, walking on eggshells through the TSA security line. I'm not carrying any bombs, but I can feel them watching me, my teeth as they shift in my mouth. I'm growing machetes out of my jaw now, turning green like the wicked winter Hulk or the Samoan witch of the West Coast. I turn my envy into evolution somehow, learn how to swim through doubt, become an amphibian, hold my breath, Under constant revision is the hope that I feel every time despair takes my breath away with a kiss or a recession or a hand on the small of my back or news of another mass outbreak of apathy. If no one wants you here anyway, so I'll just see myself out of the bathroom mirror or of my own self-doubt or the TSA line, the garden, the Uber. I'm not sure where, but somewhere on this trip I lost some of that baggage. I walk so different now. People tell me they didn't realize I was this tall. Either I was always hunched over or I only let people see me at a distance. These days, I am always teaching, gardening, the lessons my mentors taught me. I learned so many, and I have too few hands. So I plant seeds, I share poems, until my hope grows so big it swells and breaks out of me, until my hope is a bird that is hatched from this brittle shell. I watch them learn to fly, graduate, support their friends, own their nose, I watch them refuse to accept the bruised fruit, the lopsided policies our grandparents write into law. I watch them protest, walk out, push the boulder up the hill again. The birds are freedom, flying, guiding us forward. I write a lot about my students. They inspire the hell out of me because they inspire me to write towards heaven. I don't have cynicism left when my students ask me, what's coming next? I want to be cynical for me, but I can't for them. So I thank them for making me the poet I am. Yes, oh God, why is this time going by so slowly? 15 minutes seemed much longer. I think I'm just gonna actually but I didn't record my first poem because I lost my phone. I'm gonna do this poem, I think, and then introduce these wonderful panelists. This is actually only 2/3 of the poem because I can't find the third page. It's somewhere. But it seems like a natural breaking point, so we'll see. I sell my sword for seeds. Perhaps on my walk I can find a blade of grass to sharpen. For now I walk without an edge. I am a club, or I carry one in this chamber, this thump thump, this galloping hummingbird, rumble rumble, flit, love here, fly, mend a broken want. A sorry you never got to hear from that parent or unpartner, friend, asunder, bus driver who didn't stop, once lover who did. These days I just pray people stop using forever in vain. I sell my sword for disobedience. I say crazy things to anyone who will listen, like, this country will steal your life away from you 1 hour at a time. What happens when your silence is no longer free? Protect your peace 2023. Say undivided attention is prayer. Say, why should I compromise? Say, we can make our own armor so elaborate we can harm each other. Poetry is emotional demilitarization. I sing a sword with memory mixed with sand I gathered from home, or I sing comfort so well no one needs swords. They call me the dragon, just another cold-blooded Capricorn, the fifth Ninja Turtle, no headband but a beanie for the winter. My blood can handle the cold, but this hair deserves better. Sometimes cuties say, I like your curls. I say, not curls, currents, can you swim? Move from the ocean, tiptoe across the shore to this neck. There are rocks, so watch your feet. There could be vana or sharp edges or cornerstones ready to crumble. Everything you see here is being torn down by salt, but where there are rocks, there are gems. Together, my dear, we could hold hands. We could wear our face masks. We could pick up a rock, a symbol of our love, a jagged work in progress, and we could throw that big-ass rock through a window. Together, my love, we could rob the jewelers who keep us in drawers, commodities, our loneliness, learned leverage, used to sell us disposable things, used to make us think we are disposable things. My dear, you make me want to take up dancing. For the mood benefits, yeah, but also so when the rent-a-cops try to stop us, nah, we Tubman gone. used a ship to get us, stole a ship to get us crystal gems home, used your codes to open the gate, then set fire to them as we pass through. I love you. I shout to the dark air, the space unseen underneath that canopy, family, woman of distinction, chosen home, homie, sanctuary, thug's mansion, underneath this space where we are, if not safe, seen, in this space where together we gather and we speak and we learn how to listen to each other. Word. Ooh, like I said, natural breaking point. I kind of freestyled the last couple of lines, just like on vibes. But with that, I think I want to continue to open up this brilliant stage. Again, thank you, Kyle and Kundiman, everyone for creating this space. Yes. Oh, can I actually trouble you to pass me my red jacket there? Yes. Thank you. Sorry, I need to blow my nose, and I don't have anything else. Look away. Yes. Now I will pull up the bio. Talk amongst yourselves. Yeah. So, Christiana Kahukuila is a Hapa writer of Kanakamoli, native Hawaiian, German, Norwegian, and Norwegian descent. Her first book, This is Paradise, Stories from Hogarth in 2013, takes as its heart the people and landscapes of contemporary Hawaii and was named a Barnes & Noble Discover Great Writers Selection. Her middle grade novel, Clairvoyance, is due out from HarperCollins in 2024, and she is at work at a historical novel set on the island of Maui. A former magazine editor with highlights for children and Wine Spectator, Christiana has more recently published essays and short fiction in Red Ink, Hunger Mountain, and Geo International, among others. Christiana is an associate professor at the Department of English at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. She also teaches at the low residency MFA at the Institute of American Indian Art, IAIA, in Santa Fe. Join me in giving a warm welcome.
Well, I am wearing black leggings and a black jacket, and the shirt I'm wearing, a friend of my parents made in the 70s. So this was my mom's dress, and my dad has a matching shirt, and it has like a kappa print on it. A huge thank you to Kyle and Gina, and Will, of course, and Craig. Thank you to all of you who are here and my amazing students who I'm getting to catch up with. And a really special thank you to Joseph, who co-founded Kundiman. And many years ago, when I was working on This is Paradise and had one story done, he told me that reading it made him think of his family. And he said that if it made him think of his family, there would be other readers. And that story would make them think of their families too. And it really sustained me. And so thank you for that. I got into Seattle yesterday with my toddler in tow, and we headed up to the artists at Playground, which is at Seattle Center. And I really recommend it. It's amazing. We climbed on ropes, and we went down this 2-story tube slide, and she sang me a song that went loli baloli. So, she's a writer already. And there's this thing she does right before she goes down a slide, and she gets on her opu, and she gets her fingers right here on the edge, and then she gets this look of terror and glee. And then she lets go. And it's just really awesome. I'm a real rule follower. And I think the rule I'm supposed to follow here is to read fiction, because I'm the fiction writer between the poets. And I'm trying to work on that. The rule following is internal, not external. And I've got this other side of myself that likes play and having fun. This other side of my brain that wants to associate, that wants to build webs, build connections. And so that's the side I decided to listen to today. And I'm going to read an excerpt from a craft talk I've been working on, a craft essay I've been working on, titled Play, Play, Play. And I'm going to give a little shout out to my fellow crafty wahine, No'u Revilla, and because she helped me kind of start pinning down the piece. Play often requires a new beginning, a re-envisioning, like when you're asked to do a reading at AWP, and instead of excerpting something from your novel in perpetual progress, you sample from a craft essay you recently started. Play can be boundary pushing, but it is not anarchy. Play does not enjoy the absence of all rules, complete freedom. It does not want a two-story drop without any structure. No, no. Good play comes out of finding the right boundaries. Like that scene in that movie with Catherine Zeta-Jones where she's learning to be a jewel thief and she has to climb around all the laser beams protecting the expensive thing. Is it a jewel or a vase? No one remembers. It's all about the laser beams. I used to think that looked like so much fun. Figuring out how to leap and duck and climb and maneuver in order to reach the center without setting off an alarm or getting kicked out. I suppose I do that now as a writer. Wriggle and twist through playful bounds, use form to plot my way through a piece, make up prompts. Can you write a story in the shape of a sonnet, 14 lines of iambic pentameter, but you get a pass on the rhyming end lines? Or can you tell the history of your birth in the form of a letter? Can you write a definitional poem? The poet, Cedar Saigo, makes assignments for himself in order to inspire playful invention. This way, quote, the lines begin under an archway of my own imagining, he says. Some assignments are cosmic and handed to you, like a poem written in memoriam, and others just offer you a different lens. He continues, I always thought Alfred Starr Hamilton's poems seemed intentionally incomplete. They were often glimmering lists, begging to be restored with a new image. I would start poems thinking I was completing one of his. This is just an example of an assignment, of course. You can make up the rules. You can decide where the laser beams go. Play is sometimes comfort or even hope. Since she was about 18 months or so, my daughter, when she'd fall or bump her head, would cry, play, play, play. Not mama, not daddy, play, play, play. She'd cry this until we let go of her, until released from our arms, our attempts to soothe and calm, she could go back to her ball or blocks or playground. Play can be absurd or strange to those on the outside looking in. No matter. You know what works for you. Play is sometimes touted as the opposite of work. Nothing could be further from the truth. My toddler comes in from playing all sweaty and exhausted. She needs a daily nap. Play is not easy. Yet, rest can be play too, or it can lead to better play. When I'm stuck or frustrated with my writing, my partner reminds me of the 3 B's. These are bed, bath, bus. Bed stands for getting rest, taking a nap, sleep. Bath means relaxation, a meditative state, or rinsing off the old to try out the new. Bus is for travel, for getting out of your usual pattern. Bus could be replaced with run or swim or sit on a park bench and focus on the sensory experience of the world. Bus means go and come back with new perspective. When I was a kid, I was in a lot of plays. Musicals, mostly. I liked to sing and dance. I owned more than one pair of tap shoes. This was Los Angeles. So there was always some theater company somewhere putting on The Sound of Music. I knew the score by heart. I'd try out and inevitably not be cast. The reason, too brown. LA casting directors wanted blonde, fair-skinned, Austrians, whatever. So I memorized the score to Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, and I was cast twice in the starring role of child number 2. Sometimes play is about finding the right stage. And yet, once in my very, very first teaching gig, the theater department put on The Music Man. Despite a chorus that represented the makeup of the student body, all the leads were white. They had this Marion whose voice was so clear, at ease. Ooh, she could hit the top notes like she wasn't even trying. But the director had chosen a music man whose every song looked and felt like work, and not the fun kind of work. A chorus of Samoan and Fijian guys with tenors you could wrap yourself in. But the director had gone with someone who looked like he was from Iowa. That was actually the stated reasoning. The music man has to look like he's from Iowa. There are ways to fail at play. Reiterating the same old, refusing to reimagine, re-envision, taking the old masters and believing they were masters at all, instead of artists attempting something new and interesting, playing like the rest of us. Play comes from the Old English word plagan, which means to move lightly, to busy and amuse oneself. It can also mean to tend to cultivate. How do you tend to your writing, to yourself as a writer? How do you cultivate story and language? My graduate students last term talked about all the things they do that don't look like writing but are. The way thoughts move differently when they go for long walks or do Kundalini yoga or read. Sometimes play is stepping away from the page, letting the mind wander. If play were one side of a coin, what would be on the other? Fear, I think. Play does not guarantee product. At the end of the day, there may be no usable material, not a single publishable line. To play is to risk thinking you've wasted time. And so, for play to be part of your practice, you must believe in it as an act. Yes, it can be process, but it is more than that. I was on a date once, 15 years ago, and this date made a comment about lazy Kanakas. This was, for the record, not the worst date I've been on, and not even the most racist. I heard the oh no, and yes, it was close. Play has been often reserved for certain bodies, relegated. To rest, to engage the 3 Bs, to even be seen laughing or loitering, this is to risk stereotype. But to employ rest, joy, relaxation is to act against a history of colonization and missionization, to create art that remakes a body's expectations. That's play. Yes, I play because it helps me write, but I also play because it's proof that, unlike some of my ancestors, I have the autonomy and freedom to do so. Play is always political. In that movie with Catherine Zeta-Jones, I think maybe she ends up stealing the jewel or the vase or whatever by descending from the roof. I think she may bypass the laser beams completely. Sometimes play asks you to throw everything you thought you knew and try a different angle. Drop through the ceiling, right at the edge of yourself, the part that feels like it's dangling from a rope above everything that is breakable, glee and terror and letting go. Sometimes play is about memory, trying to access those hidden parts of the brain, like whether or not Catherine Zeta-Jones descends from a roof, or how the taste of dried cuttlefish makes me think of my grandmother. She was strict, my grandmother. As one of the youngest grandchildren, I got the easier side of her, the gentler version than did my older cousins. Grandma Reedy, I called her. All the other cousins called her Grandma Larita. She used to take the bus from Kahului to Lahaina to earn minimal wage at Ben Franklin Crafts. I don't remember her playing much, but I do remember my dad up before dawn to sip coffee with his mother and drive her to work. When we were visiting, we'd spend the day in Lahaina waiting for her shift to end so we could drive her home, save her the long bus ride. And when, at last, we all piled back into the rental car, I was given a packet of dried cuttlefish. Did she buy it for me, or did my dad? Even my mom, who never allowed any food with preservatives, was happy for me to chew on those salty, sweet tendrils. Sometimes play is being allowed something you're not usually allowed. A treat, in other words, a gift. When Cedar talks about finishing another writer's poem, he is not talking about correction, but connection, writing himself into those who came before him. Play can be a conversation with those we love, a memory restored, a future imagined. Maybe one day my daughter will star in The Sound of Music as child number 2. Better yet, she'll scrapple Rodgers and Hammerstein and improvise new songs, ones rooted in where she comes from, a whole new play, like her mama, her aunties, her grandmother. Ooh, crafty wahine she will become. Yes, this is an idea I'd like to play with. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Wow, incredible. Yes, at a loss for words, yet we have more for you. I'm now going to introduce Craig Santos-Perez, again, a former teacher of mine, so this is extra exciting. But Craig Santos-Perez is a Chamorro from the Pacific island of Guam. He's the co-editor of 6 anthologies and the author of 5 books of poetry and a scholarly monograph. He is a professor in the English department at the University of Hawaii, Manoa. He received the 2022 AWP George Garnett Award for Outstanding Community Service in Literature for his contributions to the Pacific Islander literature community over the past 20 years. Please join me in welcoming Craig Santos-Perez. I didn't realize I was supposed to put the podium down.
Well, Hafaday, Sainamaasi, thank you for celebrating Pacific Islander literature with us today. Sainamaasi to Kundiman for your support, solidarity, and generosity. Sainamaasi, thank you to Will. Great to see you again. We miss you in Hawaii. So proud of you. And of course, to my colleague, Tiana. I want to give a special thank you to Joseph as well, whose work I read about 15 years ago. And your writing about the Philippines and the Filipinx experience really inspired me to write about my own homeland and people. And I'll never forget when I was in New York for the first time, you let me crash at your place. I think embodies the generosity that I feel from Kundiman as well. And I actually saw Joseph last night at the award ceremony. First thing he says to me is, "Craig, where's the Spam?" I actually did bring a couple cans, but I ate it on the plane, so didn't have any to share. But for my reading today, I'm going to share some poems from my most recent book, Habitat Threshold, from Omnidom Publishing. It was published in March 2020, so I haven't had any in-person events for this book. And so this is kind of the first in-person event, possibly the last since my new book comes out next month, so kind of a strange irony here today. But it's a collection of eco-poetry, which is what I teach, as Will mentioned, and covers themes of climate change, environmental justice, and human-animal relations. This first poem is called Rings of Fire, and it takes place in Hawaii. We host our daughter's first birthday party during the hottest April in history. Outside, my dad grills meat over charcoal. Inside, my mom steams rice and roasts vegetables. They've traveled from California, where drought carves trees into tinder. Paradise is burning. When our daughter's first fever spiked, the doctor said it's a sign she's fighting infection. Bloodshed surges with global temperatures which know no borders. If her fever doesn't break, the doctor continued, take her to the emergency room. Airstrikes detonate hospitals in Yemen, Iraq, Afghanistan, South Sudan. When she crowned, it felt like rings of fire. Volcanoes erupt along Pacific fault lines. Sweltering heat waves scorch Australia. Forests in Indonesia are razed for palm oil plantations. Their ashes flock like ghost birds to our distant rib cages. Still, I crave an unfiltered cigarette, even though I quit years ago and my breath no longer smells like my grandpa's overflowing ashtray. His parched cough still punctures the black lungs of cancer and denial. If she struggles to breathe, the doctor advised, give her an asthma inhaler. But tonight, we sing happy birthday and blow out the candles together. Smoke trembles as if we all exhaled the same flammable wish. Thank you. I'm actually going to read a bunch of poems, so you don't have to clap because sometimes the poems get jealous of each other. The ones that receive more applause, and be a long flight back to Hawaii if that happens. All right, this next poem is titled A Sonnet at the Edge of the Reef. It takes place in one of my daughter's favorite places, the Waikiki Aquarium. We dip our hands into the outdoor reef exhibit and touch sea cucumber and red urchin as butterfly fish swim by. A docent explains, once a year, after the full moon, when tides swell to a certain height and salt water reaches the perfect temperature, only then will the ocean cue coral polyps to spawn in synchrony a galaxy of gametes, which dances to the surface, fertilizes, opens, forms larvae, roots to seafloor, and grows generation upon generation. At home, we read a children's book, The Great Barrier Reef, to our daughter snuggling between us in bed. We don't mention corals bleaching, reared in labs, or frozen? And isn't our silence, too, a kind of shelter? Okay, this next poem takes us to another one of my daughter's favorite places, the Honolulu Zoo, which we visited on World Elephants Day. Blood Ivory. When we reach the elephant enclosure, I lift our daughter up so she can see them playing in shallow ponds. Look, I say, they love the water, just like you. Today, 96 elephants are being massacred across Africa's scarred savanna. Armed poachers surround the herds who stomp, trumpet, and encircle their calves. Bullets, those small human tusks, bite through thick, wrinkled skin. Do the men still feel awe or majesty, or do they only feel their own awful poverty as they sever the incisors once used to split bark and forage? Warlords will sell this white gold to be carved into jewelry, relics, and art, then smuggled across the planet, our man-made elephant graveyard. This year, 35,000 will be slain. Our daughter waves goodbye to them as we walk towards the exit. Do we build zoos to save what we've sacrificed, to display what we dominate, or to cage our own wild urge to kill every breathing being? Our daughter plays with a stuffed elephant doll in the gift shop. Look, I say, it has ears, eyes, and a mouth, just like you. She touches its tusks, smiles, then touches her own teeth. This next poem is called We Aren't the Only Species. Who age, who change, who language, who pain, who play, who pray, who save, who mate, who native, who take, who break, who invade, who claim, who taste, who want, who talk, who crawl, who walk, who yawn, who trauma, who laugh, who care, who hear, who fear, who steal, who heal, who friend, who remember, who sex, who nest, who settle, who smell, who help, who eat, who feed, who greed, who sleep, who see, who need, who belong, who bleed, who speak, who breathe, who breathe, who breathe, who think, who drink, who sing, who thirst, who birth, who kill, who smile, who lick, who listen, who kiss, who give, who sick, who piss, who shit, who swim, who migrate, who die, who fight, who cry, who hide, who sign, who mourn, who mourn, who mourn, who work, who school, who tool, who colonize, who bond, who protect, who hope, who lose, who love, who lonely, who touch, who moan, who drown, who hurt, who hunt, who run, who hunger, who music, who hearse, who nurse, who suffer, who build, who trust, who bury, who past, who present, who future, who house, who house, who house on this our only. Let's have two more poems. This one is called The Last Safe Habitat, and is dedicated to a native Hawaiian bird called the Kauai-o'o, which is a kind of honey creeper. And sadly, this bird's song was last heard in the islands in 1987. The Last Safe Habitat. I don't want our daughter to know that Hawaii is the bird extinction capital of the world. I don't want her to walk around the island feeling haunted by tree roots buried under concrete. I don't want her to fear the invasive predators who slither, pounce, bite, swallow, disease, and multiply. I don't want her to see paintings and photographs of birds she'll never witness in the wild. I don't want her to imagine their bones in dark museum drawers. I don't want her to hear their voice recordings on the internet. I don't want her to draw a timeline in school with the years each was first collected and last cited. I don't want her to learn about the Kauai o'o, who was observed atop a flowering ohia tree, calling for a mate, day after day, season after season, because he didn't know he was the last of his kind. Until one day, he disappeared forever into a nest of avian silence. I don't want our daughter to calculate how many miles of fencing is needed to protect the endangered birds that remain. I don't want her to realize the most serious causes of extinction can't be fenced out. I want to convince her that extinction is not the end. I want to convince her that extinction is just a migration to the last safe habitat on Earth. I want to convince her that our winged relatives have arrived safely to their destination, a wondrous island with a climate we can never change, and a rainforest fertile with seeds and song. I'm supposed to clap. Okay, my final poem, and thank you again for listening. This is a call and response poem, so I'm going to need a little audience participation. And when I say the word say, you say water is life. Say. 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 Because our bodies are 60% water. Because water breaks forth from shifting tectonic plates. Because amniotic fluid is 90% water. Because our daughter crowned like a new island. Say. Because we tell creation stories about water. Because our language flows from water. Because our words are islands writ on water. Because it takes more than 3 gallons of water to make a single sheet of paper. Say. Because water is the next oil. Because 180,000 miles of U.S. oil pipelines leak every day. Because we wage war over gods and water and oil. Say. Because our planet is 70% water. Because only 3% is fresh water. Because it takes 2 gallons of water to refine 1 gallon of gasoline. Because it takes 20 gallons of water to make a pound of plastic. Because the average American water footprint is 2,000 gallons a day. Say. Because 1 billion people lack access to drinking water. Because women and children walk 4 miles every day to gather clean water and deliver it home. Say. Because corporations privatize, dam, and bottle our waters. Because plantations divert our waters. Because animal slaughterhouses consume our waters. Because pesticides, chemicals, lead, and waste poison our waters. Say. Because they bring their bulldozers and drills and drones. Because we bring our feathers and lei and sage and shells and canoes and hashtags and totems. Because they call us savage and primitive and riot. Because we bring our treaties and the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Because they bring their banks and politicians and police and private militia. Because we bring our songs and schools and prayers and chants and ceremonies. Because we say stop, keep the oil in the ground. Because they say shut up and vanish. But we are not moving because we bring all our relations and all our generations and all our live streams. Say. Because our drumming sounds like rain after drought echoing against taut skin. Because our skin is 60% water. Say. Because every year, millions of children die from waterborne diseases. Because every day, thousands of children die from waterborne diseases. Because by the end of this poem, 5 children will die from waterborne diseases. Say. Because my daughter loves playing in the ocean. Because someday she'll ask, where does the ocean end? Because we'll point to the dilating horizon. Because our eyes are 95% water. Because we'll tell her ocean has no end. Because sky and clouds lift ocean. Because mountains embrace ocean into blessings of rain. Because ocean, sky, rain fills aquifers and lakes. Because ocean, sky, rain, lake flows into the Missouri River. Because ocean, sky, rain, lake, river returns to the Pacific and connects us to our cousins at Standing Rock. Because our blood is 90% water. Say. Because our hearts are 75% water. Because I'll teach my daughter our people's word for water, Hanum, Hanum, Hanum. So the sound of water will always carry her home. Say. 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 Mahalo, Sainamasi. Thank you again.
Yeah. Also, sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to go to the podium. I was just kicking it. Yeah, so I think we're just gonna, I guess I get to just ask you questions now. That's, to my knowledge, what is happening. Cool. Yeah, this is too much responsibility. This is great. Yeah, I guess I was really moved by kind of like listening to both of you share this, especially the idea that you were getting to is like that play is always political. Like I could not contain myself in my seat when you were reading. I don't know, to both of you, because I view both of you not just as writers who writes what you know, like from a personal perspective, but writers who write what you know from a community perspective. Like I'm very interested in, do like both of you, either of you view sharing our stories or stories about our culture as work or play? No, yeah, right. No time. I'm doing that.
I mean, I think first of all, I'd have to think through, like, our communities. One of the reasons my, bio says Hapa, and then also says Kanakamali in German and Norwegian, is because I feel that I am part of, and sometimes at the edges of, a number of communities, and sometimes those are communities that have been and still are diametrically opposed. And also, in addition to, I think sharing of stories comes with so much. There's definitely things that are so playful and fun, and then there's so many responsibilities. And perhaps for me, like the overriding thing is this idea of gift. And not only is this a story, I have been gifted in some way to share, but also like, who is it for? Who is this piece like a love letter for? And if I know that, it makes other things like voice or tone fall into place, but it also means that I'm able to approach then what I'm working on in a playful way, but also in a space of like love and excitement and joy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It is work and play, but also responsibility, kind of privilege, inheritance, legacy, a way to honor, I think, not only people, but our ancestors and our descendants. And, so for me, it's all of those things wrapped up. It's joyful, it can be traumatic, it's, our stories are kind of vessels of memory as well. So thinking about what we want to pass down to the next generation who might read our work or listen to our stories, and hopefully to empower and inspire them to tell their stories as well.
Cool. Yes. My next question, which I want to give you like a moment to contemplate for, my last question kind of, I folded this one into it, but I actually want to hear it kind of directly. So I want to ask like, who do both of you write for, either like explicitly or in general? And also I want to say, I think they told me that we can't do like an audience Q&A because we don't have mics or something of that matter. However, if you have a burning, pressing question you would like to write down and maybe like run over here that I could read and then filter and then do my moderation thing, I am more than welcome to that. Back to this question.
I must
yeah,
say,
who do
this
you write
works.
for?
I'm so used to having Will in class, and I'm the one asking the questions. Now he's asking me a question. For me, I definitely write for my family, I think, first and foremost. Write for my people and for the culture. And, in this particular book, writing, of course, for the land and waters and for more than human beings. And so it really kind of depends on the poem, but feels like there's such a rich genealogy in Pacific literature in general, in which the writing is kind of woven into.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. And, I also think I said the word vessel, and Craig just said it, and I think as someone who was born in the diaspora, born in California, spent a lot of time growing up on Maui, and now live in Hawaii. Like, I'm also thinking a lot about this movement across ocean, and I don't know if that's necessarily means I'm writing for in relationship to that idea, but I do feel that like I'm being carried in these different ways, these different waves, these different currents, and that matters when I'm going to when I'm writing an essay or a story or working on a novel, that I'm thinking about this huge amount of like vibrant and alive space.
Yeah, because I also time check. Let me know how much time we have left. But I also want to say I admire you both as well. I'd say you're both like at the stage of writing in which you're not only writers, you are really stewards of other folks' work. And I wanted to give you both maybe some opportunities to talk about like who you make room for now at this stage of your work as either an author or a community member. I know specifically, Craig, you've done extensive work with anthologies that like I continuously am like, another one. There's so many co-edited things. So yeah, if you would want to talk about that, and then as well your like who you're bringing into the room, because as you mentioned, and so many other, yeah, you already do it. I want more. I want to hear more.
Yes, thank you, Will. And I had the pleasure of publishing a lot of Will's work as well in several anthologies. Partly, as many of you know, if you've studied the history of literature by peoples of color in the U.S., often it's the anthologies that bring these writers together and make a first articulation of what might be this canon, and often does launch careers, and ultimately helps bring underrepresented voices more visibility within the literary world. The same is true for Pacific Islander literature. So for me, over the past 15 years or so, I've been editing anthologies. A new one just came out a few months ago called Indigenous Pacific Islander Eco-Literatures, just published by the University of Hawaii Press. They actually have a booth here at the book fair, so if you want to pick it up, please do so. I have another one coming out soon, maybe a year or so within that series, called Queer Amnesia, which is a collection of queer Pacific Islander literature. Doing another collection around Pacific literature and food. So a whole section on spam, I'm sure. and so, part of it is to give, younger writers a chance to have their work published, to also highlight some older, neglected writers, and then to just, provide curriculum to be used in the classrooms across the Pacific, and then, of course, to share our work and voices with the world.
And I love the series that you're editing, Craig. I think for me, first of all, maybe I'm just realizing, because you just said it, that I'm at the point in my career where certain things have shifted. I remember sort of acutely being a graduate student, like running around AWP, and it was overwhelming and amazing, and it feels overwhelming and amazing to be on a stage talking, and that's an arc that has happened when I wasn't looking, maybe. And so that's kind of an incredible feeling. For me, my students, and I have the pleasure of teaching in a number of different places, are, I guess, the ones that I want to make the most room for. And I have the pleasure of teaching at University of Hawaii and at IAIA and with Kundiman, and I think I'm really mindful about who I teach with, and that means mostly, or to a great degree, teaching students of color, and that matters a lot to me. And I really want to keep making room for the feelings, the like super honest feelings we have as writers. Because I think at a place like AWP, you're never supposed to talk about the stuff that's like not going well. But there's like always a lot of stuff that's not going well. And that might be personal, that might be a writing life, but like there's things you're afraid of, and like there's anxiety, and like it's weird and scary to show up at this huge conference, and what if you didn't come with a friend, or what if you did? And so I think like for me it's like I want to talk about that stuff, and I want to talk about it in terms of craft, and so that's like a direction I'm moving towards. But also because if we're not talking about that honestly, then we're not actually like bringing our real selves into the room and into our writing, and then we're not grounded, and then we're not taking care of ourselves as humans. And we have to come first as humans before we can really be writers or functional writers. So that's what I want to be making room for.
Word. I think we have time for like a very, very, very short question. So I just want to say, like, I've been thinking a lot about poet laureates, and like, as a writer laureate, like, Craig, I think I already know the answer for you, but like, if you are the poet laureate of one or certain venues, which, like, give me like 2 or 3 of those, like the poet laureate of, let's say, Spam. I don't know. Or like the writer laureate, because I think that, I don't know, I'm very interested in like where you're centering your work right now. So if you could just hit us with like 2, 3 themes that are mad important and that you are going to continue to write towards, share with me. I want to know.
Someone call Hermel, and we can hook up that poet laureate of Spam. I have no idea, but what I will say is that I hope the next U.S. poet laureate is an Asian American poet, because that needs to happen.
You've thumped me, Will. I'm not easily thumped. Okay, I think I'll just agree with Craig. Yeah.
Cool. I love answers to questions that just turn into challenges to organizations. Let's have more of those. With that, thank you so much for being here. I believe you are at time. Have a wonderful AWP.